What do we do if it becomes clearer than it already is, that the Iranians will soon have a nuclear weapon and that the sanctions are insufficiently effective to bring about either a halt to the nuclear program or a change in regime? Hopefully, neither our government nor the Israeli government will be in a position that it has to use force. Hopefully, these other approaches will succeed. But if one comes to a situation in which this theocratic, totalitarian regime, promising, as did Hitler, to kill the Jews and conquer its region, is allowed to continue along the current path, then we will, in Israel and in the United States, face some very difficult choices. The one thing I would suggest is this: an Iranian nuclear weapon completely changes the face of the Middle East. It completely changes the balance of power in a very important part of the world. And I don't believe that is acceptable from the point of view of the American people, the U.S. government, or anyone who loves freedom. Because signing off to an Iranian nuclear weapon and the consequent Iranian power over its neighbors and over many aspects of international affairs through its ownership and possession of nuclear weapons, and within very few years the ballistic missiles to carry them, signing off on that changes the world. Certainly also would the use of force against Iran change the world. And in the short run, not for the better. There will be huge criticisms of whatever country, Israel, the United States, or any other that helped. Some of the loudest criticism would come from Arab states in the neighborhood of Iran, who privately are urging decisive action, but publicly will complain. Very loudly if any use of force transpires. Close by adding only one point. I do believe that if it comes to a use of force, that a surgical strike on the Iranian nuclear program would not be a wise utilization of force. If force is used, it needs to be used to destroy the Revolutionary Guard and its works. Not the infrastructure of the civilian, fine people of Iran, but every element of the Revolutionary Guard as thoroughly and decisively as it is possible for us to do so. Thank you.
I want to take one question for CIA Director Woolsey. He's got to leave to go to an event, but if anyone has a question, we'd like to be able to take it at this time. Thank you for coming, Jim. God bless you. Thank you. Oh, there is one question? Okay, go ahead.
Well, they call it They call it engagement. They call it engagement, not appeasement. And I was drawing a parallel between the behavior in the, I don't think that's mine this time. I was drawing a parallel between the behavior in the 1930s of Britain, France, and from a greater distance, the United States, when the action was called appeasement, and behavior today in which it's called engagement. There could be some subtle differences. Both were reasonable words describing actual steps in diplomacy without negative connotations until appeasement, quite understandably, developed a very negative connotation since it had a major hand in bringing about World War II. I guess the way I would put it is I would very much hope that the notion of engagement, which may under some circumstances mean just talking to an adversary, and conceivably in circumstances in which we have enough power and leverage that the act of negotiating is not seen as acquiescence. I could see some circumstances in which that engagement in that sense would not be a terrible idea. But every American administration since 1979, beginning with Jimmy Carter and including Ronald Reagan, liberals, conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, has tried to talk with and deal with the revolutionary government of Iran in one way or another. Every damned one of those efforts has been a total and complete failure. So I don't really believe that we have a history of engaging with the revolutionary government of Iran in an effective way. And I guess the one thing I'd add is that the Persians invented chess, and they're good at it. And what I think we see, and have what has been underway for many years with their nuclear program, is they're moving one of their pawns down one side of the board down to get to the king's row to make it able to be converted to the most lethal piece, the queen. In the meantime, they're distracting us by other stuff, engagement, that's going on the other side of the board. And now they're very close to getting that pawn into the king's row and having it become the most lethal piece on the board. I don't think that any effort at engagement alone is going to stop that. Engagement might have a bit of a role if we operate from a position of considerably greater power and influence and leverage over Iran than we have today. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's okay. I can take it if you want.
No, we don't have any more time.
Okay.
Thank you. We'd like to take more questions, but we're on a tight time frame here with some of our speakers. I next want to introduce someone who, if I was using usual Washington terminology, would be called a rising star in the Republican Party and a rising star generally. She's not a rising star. She is the star of the Republican Party and, in my view, of Washington, D.C. She has stood with people who believe in individual freedom, in liberty, in government which serves the people but doesn't dominate the people. She's someone who I've gotten to know over time, and I invited her here today because she has a lot to say. Her name is Michele Bachmann. She's from the 4th District of Minnesota. She's a congresswoman. We need more Michele Bachmanns in this country. I introduce you to Michele Bachmann. She'll be in a second. I guess I should dance. Thanks. He's here.
Thank you, Larry.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Larry, for your kindness and for your kind words. And good morning to my dear friends here at Freedom Watch. I am very gratified that we had former CIA Director Woolsey here, and I appreciated his words and his comments. I can't overstate the importance of the topic today to address this ever-impending threat that Iran's leadership poses, not only to the people of Iran, not only to the people of Israel, not only to the people of the United States, but to nearly every nation in the world if we do nothing with this effort. Iran continues to strut and deploy, and they do it in plain view. Their expanding arsenal of pre-nuclear carrying missiles is a public testimony to all of us of what is to come. By their own admission, and by our own United States intelligence, we know that they already have nuclear capability. Their dictator, Mr. Ahmadinejad, has announced to the world his intention to bomb the state of Israel. He directs his insulting comments to the cameras right here, to our American media, right here on American soil. How long will our current administration ignore the in-our-face preview of what is to come? Allow me to expand on what is taking place in full view under the permitting eye even of our own United States State Department. Last year, we witnessed the courage of Iranian citizens at Tehran University as they protested the corrupt Iranian regime controlling their presidential election. They were shot, they were dismembered, they were imprisoned, they were tortured, and this was all done by their own government. The world saw in full view the pleading faces of these young men, of old men, of women who so desperately needed the encouragement of the free world. An opportunity was lost, I feared, when they received no official encouragement from our United States government. Rather, they witnessed our State Department offering to have sit-down talks with the very man that ordered the dissidents' torture. By June 22nd of 2009, Iran's press TV confirmed 13 deaths due to the violence, but some reports said as many as 150 people may have been killed in those riots. A bipartisan Congress continues to put forth H. Resolution 1431, which calls for an end to the violence, to the unlawful arrests, to the torture, and to the ill treatment perpetrated against Iranian citizens, as well as the unconditional release of all political prisoners in Iran. Today, because of an unwilling administration, even with 37 individual states co-sponsoring this resolution, it still has not passed when one party had the ability easily to do so. What could possibly be wrong with condemning these extraordinary, inhuman acts? One of the bravest Iranian dissident groups, the People's Mojahedin Organization of Iran, is actually listed on our State Department's list of foreign terrorist organizations. The United States has shackled this freedom-seeking group who has the ability to be successful in inspiring others to rise up and oppose the tyrannical Iranian regime. But there is new hope in a new house. And if these courageous, freedom-loving Iranians are able to stand against their oppression without world support, how empowered would they be if the United States would simply stand behind them in the days ahead and then follow through? We wish peace for the people of the United States. We wish peace for the people of Iran. We wish peace for the people of Israel. And we wish peace for the people in every nation of our world. And I thank you, Larry, for this opportunity this morning.
Thank you, Congresswoman. We'll take a question or two from the audience.
Yes.
Is there a mic that she can get, a handheld mic? I think there's